starts with the Bible. The God created the family for a reason. We need the love and support for each other, to help each other, to teach each other. It's very important for us to be nurtured. The Lord say, train up a child. So somebody has to do that job. Somebody has to do the training, the cultivating of that child. So there was a time when just the mother, not just the mother and the father, but the grandparents or the great aunts also lived in the household, because that gave the parents an opportunity to work, and the children weren't neglected because there was always somebody home to nurture them. So family is important for the child to grow up, for us all to grow up. Absolutely, in order for a child to develop, they learn, especially when you have the extended family, you have more people to learn from and more things to learn. Just not just what the parents are teaching, but the grandparents. And wisdom is important. The Bible called wisdom a she. She is more precious than gold. That comes from our elders, the experience that they have, the knowledge that they have. So they instill that knowledge into the children and the grandchildren that they nurture. So it's important for us to have a wise source available for us to learn, and not just be learning. We, in newer years, the newer generations, it's the nuclear family, but the family was always extended. There was always more than just the children and the parents. There was always grandma, great grandma, or great aunts and uncles that lived in the house too. Well, my inspiration for family history was family. When we were coming up, we all sat around at the kitchen table, or the table at night to eat. We ate together. Nobody ate in their own room. Everybody ate together. So you were able to communicate, learn about what was going on in your day. You didn't have to worry about a child being off in a room, because everybody had to come to the table, come to the community table to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There was no eating in the living room or the bedroom. So family was something that was nurtured into us, always important, especially the holidays. The relatives were there, come over, cooking. Everything was centered around the food table. Because when we were coming up, not being rich, basically everything was centered around food. So we came together to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the table, and things were discussed at the table. Questions were asked at the table. So that for me inspired me later on to want to know more, because my grandparents, I had my one grandmother and grandfather here, but they were living in different states. I didn't know them. My father was from Ohio. I went there a couple of times and I'm named after his sisters, after his great aunt and after his sister, Alice Elizabeth, but I didn't know them. So not knowing family made me interested into finding out who my family was, because I didn't know them. And my we knew great, she lived in Georgia, but we was around her a little bit. We got to know her a little bit. My father's mother, I met her twice in my life. She lived in California. I didn't know her. His father lived here in Detroit. I knew him, but I didn't know her. So it was important for me, growing up with a close-knit family and close-knit neighborhood, it was important for me to know who was my family, because I didn't know them. Well, I started, basically my Uncle George, my great Uncle George, he was a quiet person. He talked, older people back then talked about family. They would tell you family history. So I would always listen to him. tell us about, what happened when in Georgia when he was coming up. And so I started young listening to it. I didn't know that I would go get into it as I got older, but kind of stuck when he started telling me the stories, and my grandfather started telling me the stories about family. And when I got older, I learned that I'm losing that because they passed away. There was nobody else telling the story. So I started asking questions. I would question my mother, my aunts and uncles, and my siblings. Started asking questions of about the family history, things that, and then unfortunately, some people were like, well, I know this, but I don't know much. So I couldn't get a lot of information from them. So I had to start digging for my own information because they didn't have it. They didn't know. So I had to start digging, trying to find out for myself actually who was my family, where did we come from, and what had happened to us, why we spread it apart, why don't we spend more time together. So there was a lot of stories and a lot of history that explained why we were so far apart. We need somebody to talk and tell the history, and to talk to the young people or somebody else and tell them your history. We don't do that. We don't tell our history. In fact, sometimes we just too private. So private we don't want to tell anything, and if somebody asks us anything, sometimes we get offended. So we need to talk. We need to have conversations, and we need to be together. Even though technology, we know we can do that with technology. We can be together, even not in the same room, but we can talk. And one thing that I had planned to do is to have a gathering where we did that. Actually talked about some of the past, some of the things that were interesting for us from our past, so that we could learn from one another. Because when we talk to our children, and they're like, wow, when did that happen? We didn't know that. They don't know because we're not talking. So having a conversation, that's how we keep the history going, just by talking. Well, the reason I always brought my camera is because growing up, my parents always took pictures. My father and mother used to develop their own pictures. And so we had bags of pictures. And unfortunately, my beloved late Uncle Dickie, who was helping Mama move, thought that they was trash. And unfortunately, a lot of them, I had copied a lot of them already on disc. So, and some I had put in photo albums, but those bags, we had those big bags, grocery bags of pictures. And so that's how I started bringing my camera, buying cameras, because that's what they always did. We always took a lot of pictures when we were coming up. We had, like I said, bags of pictures. So that's something my parents did. So I got that from them, taking pictures all the time. We always took pictures. This is a picture of my mom, Gwendolyn Craig Jackson, and my sister Eleanor Collier, and myself. We had a photo shoot at Unity Baptist Church, and she wanted to take some pictures. So we took pictures up at the church, up at Unity Baptist Church, she and I, and she was excited about it. She wanted everybody to come, but everybody didn't come, but we did come, and we took this photo, and she loved this photo. She was, because she was excited. My mother was excited about everything that went on at Unity. So when we came and took this picture, she was glad that we came to take the picture with her. Because nobody else came. She asked everybody to come, but nobody else came. But we were able to take the picture with her. because it's family, not just family is on the wall, but friends are on the wall too. And just being able to see them and enjoy them. We've always had pictures growing up, so I'm just familiar and close knit with having pictures. And so when I'm able to look at the pictures and see the timeline of what happened from ground zero to today, you can kind of look at the pictures and remember the stories. What happened, what was going on with those pictures from you guys graduating to weddings, birthdays, picnics, all things that have been happening in the family. You can sometimes I could just sit there and just look at those pictures and just remember the good times.
Yeah.
Well, it was something that I could see that you like to do. And usually when I see something in the child or a young person, I like to encourage them. And so whatever way I can encourage them. So it was something that I saw that you like to do. So I always gave you the camera to encourage you so that you would take the pictures, and you took good pictures. And so I saw that, and I saw it grow as you continue to take pictures. I saw you growing and saw your love develop for taking those pictures. So that's why I always gave you the camera. Other people are like, can I take a picture? I'm like, Ray got the camera. And people would always want the camera. But I always gave you the camera because I could see it was a passion, it was a love that you had, and then it was a skill set that you were starting to develop. And that's why I always gave you the camera. I would like to have remembered the love that I have for family, the support that I have. I would like to be remembered as doing everything I could to help and support family. That's important. That's what I learned growing up. My parents taught us. And our children always tease us about how close knit we are, but that's the way we were raised. If your sister or your brother was fighting, you was fighting too. Don't come home and say you didn't get in the fight. That was a problem. But so that's how we were raised. Very close knit, always having each other's back. And so that's how I would like to be remembered, always having the back of all my family members.